Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So, without further ado, I would like everyone to get out of their seats and give a large Startup Grind welcome to Lewis House. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, I know you're so busy. You're every other show you're on, every entrepreneurial publication is calling you right now. So before
They're calling me because I'm calling them first to ask them to have me on.
Persistence.
That's what I'm doing.
Hustle. One of the 8 pieces of the book, right?
That's right.
So normally how we start these is we talk a little bit about your background. So tell us about where you grew up. What did your parents do? Give us a little bit of context into your childhood.
I feel like everyone already knows that, but how many people have never heard about me, just so I'm clear? A few people. Okay, cool. How many people have listened to the podcast? Raise your hand if you have. All right, sweet. So a little bit about me, for those that don't know me, I grew up in a small town, Delaware, Ohio, and my parents always told me to chase my dreams, and that's what I've been doing the rest of my life. Simple as that.
And so I feel like there's more to talk about there.
You know, I was an awkward kid. I really didn't have any friends, and I struggled in school. So I used all my aggression in sports because that was an outlet for me to kind of get it out, I guess, in a safe environment. And I started to recognize that I had a talent probably in 7th and 8th grade. I started playing basketball every single day, competing against high school kids, the varsity kids. And in pickup ball, winter stays. So I would get there at like 4 o'clock and after school, and then I'd stay until like 9:30 until the gym would close. Because I'd always get picked up on a team where we would just like continue to win. So I learned early on the importance of finding a good team so you can stay on the court all night long.
And then you ended up playing high school football. That was your main sport, correct?
Yeah, I played football, basketball, baseball, track in high school. Yeah.
And then going through high school, what were your goals? Like, you're 16, 18 years old. Like, what did you want to do? Was it NFL?
Yeah, my goal was to be accepted by my peers. I was the youngest playing varsity sports, so I was a freshman playing varsity. So I was always picked on still. Even though I was doing well, I was always picked on because I was the young rookie. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I just wanted to perform well enough that people accepted me as a peer, that they accepted me as one of their own. That was kind of like the early high school years. And then when I got into my senior year, it was like all my friends were gone, so I had to get new friends because I was always the youngest. And now I was becoming like the leader for all the young guns coming up. And my goal was to step into that leadership role because I never had to be a leader until I was about a senior in high school. And then I was like, oh, everyone's expecting me to be that. And it was to get a college scholarship. That was the dream.
And so when you had to step up into that leadership role in high school, was it more of on the field or off the field?
It was on the field. And it was really uncomfortable for me because I was so used to kind of just, I was the wide receiver, I wasn't the quarterback, so I didn't have to take command in the huddle. But when I needed to step up, it was very uncomfortable for me. It was challenging because I wasn't used to that position.
Were you non-confrontational?
Yeah, I wanted people to accept me, so I wasn't confrontational at all. And that's something I've learned to grow into. I still want people to accept me. I think we all do. But sometimes we got to get results, and if it's not working, we have to stay where we need to or do what we need to get them.
So obviously something went right in high school, and you went to play collegiate football.
Yep.
Talk to us about your experience in college. Had your goals changed because you already got your football scholarship, right? So now you're looking to the next.
Yeah,
next big thing.
I transferred around 4 different schools, actually. I transferred around, I had a really horrible experience playing my freshman year with a coach that he just did not know how to connect with me.
Did you send him a book?
I haven't sent him a book yet, I should. But here's the thing I learned early on is we shouldn't expect people to understand us. If you want to be a great leader, you've got to be able to connect with each person in the room or each person on your team. Mm-hmm. And this coach had one specific way. It was his way. It was very aggressive. It was very, let me swear at you. If you do anything right or wrong, I'm going to swear at you. And it was going to be yelling at you. And I was just like, I do not react well like this. You're not getting my best. And I would try to please him. And I was like, man, this does not make me feel good. And he's not going to make you feel good all the time. He can't do that. But it's like, there's got to be a way you can connect with people in a different way to get the best out of each person on your team. And that's what I learned in college early on. Was like, man, this is not effective. I don't want to be that type of teammate or leader or whatever it may be. I want to make sure that I'm able to connect with people where they're at and understand them where they're at. And I'm still not perfect. I still don't do it that great all the time. I'm sure my team in the back's like, he sucks. But I think they feel my intention is like, I really do care, and I want to make sure that it's, finding the best for everyone. So in college, I learned, that what works for me and what doesn't work for me, and I transferred around a lot. I was trying to find my way. I was trying to figure out how it was going to best support me to get to the next level. I wanted to be a professional athlete.
So the goal had shifted.
The goal shifted, yeah. I mean, when I was in college, it was like, how can I be a professional athlete? That was the dream as a kid. But the stepping stone was to get a college scholarship first.
Okay. So the fourth school you were at, what was the school? And you set a pretty substantial record. Is it still in play today?
Well, the second school I went to was where I broke the record. Then I transferred from that school, then transferred back to it.
Oh, I see.
Then transferred again, and then transferred back to finish up. Exactly. And then I studied abroad in Hawaii for a semester, so that was the four schools.
How many years were you in college?
Like 7.5. No, I think only like 5.
Okay.
But I mean, I also got injured my senior year, so I had a red shirt, so I was able to come back and play. What was the question?
I wanted to hear about the record that you set.
Oh, the record?
Yeah.
Yeah, I broke a record for most receiving yards in a single game, and then it got broken, I think, 3 years ago. So I had it for about 10 years, and then finally got broken.
So after college, you kind of had a big moment, right? Like you had to work out in front of NFL scouts.
Yeah, this was like the dream. Has anyone ever heard of like the NFL Combine? Yeah. So for me, going to the Combine was like a big deal. I didn't get accepted to the NFL Combine, but I got to compete at the Ohio State Combine, which is probably the biggest one. Like that and USC are the biggest combines for the NFL scouts. And I'm at this small school about 2 miles from Ohio State where I competed at. And I go there, and this year there's 5 first-round draft picks that come out of this draft. There's Santonio Holmes, A.J. Hawk, Bobby Carpenter, some other guys, and me. And it was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 NFL head coaches were there. Every scout from every team was there. The whole Ohio State team, all the coaching staff. It was just like all the press. It was one of the scariest moments of my life. And I remember I had to wait the entire day until I got to perform. I saw everyone else like do their drills before me, and it was me and Santonio Holmes, he was like a 2-time All-American. He's won a Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl.
No big deal, right?
Yeah, next. It was just us two going up against, with all these scouts and coaches. Like, okay, show us what you got, kid. And I was terrified. But I'd been training every day for weeks and weeks, specifically for this moment. And I remember I was like, just catch the first pass. Like, that's all I have to do is focus on catching the first pass, which is like a simple little like 5-step turn and catch the ball. And I kind of bobbled it a little bit, but I caught it. And I was like, okay, I'm in the zone now. I was like, I got the jitters out. And within like a few passes, it's just, I'm going one route, and Santonio Holmes. He drops a ball, and then I catch it. And then he drops another one, and I keep catching. And then he falls down, and I'm like sprinting like a maniac. And I was like, wow, I'm actually doing better than him. This guy he was like the 5th pick in the draft, I think, or something like that. And the New York Giants scout came up to me afterwards. He said, I don't know who you are or where you came from, but you did way better than Santonio Holmes today. And I hope you get picked up somewhere. So it was a cool moment. I didn't run as fast as I needed to in the 40-yard dash, and coming from a small school, it's pretty challenging to get the look you need.
Yeah.
So I had a couple tryouts, but didn't work out.
And then you went straight to arena football, correct?
Actually, since I didn't make the NFL right then, I had to wait about 6 months until the arena football season started. So I played with a arena football team for the last month of a practice squad in Columbus, Ohio. And then I had to wait until the next season. And during that time, I was training, and I was a truck driver for 3 months.
Oh my goodness.
From Columbus, Ohio to Cincinnati and back every day, 6-hour route. I would drive Napa car parts and it was the most miserable time of my life. And I made $250 a week.
So you just made enough to get by or less.
Enough to like buy some food.
Yeah, and then you were going to the gym and working out. And
I
getting
work out
ready
in the morning
for...
and then I work out at night, and I would do this 6-hour route that was like a 10 o'clock to whatever, 4 o'clock, 10 a.m. to 4.
So I feel like as we progress like through your career, that being an athlete early on has given you kind of like this toolkit where you know what hard work is, right?
Yeah.
Like you know what adversity, what that actually means. And then, I think it's pretty applicable into like everything that is going to start to happen. So I want to hear about this like kind of interim period where you're still an athlete. Your goal is to be, in the NFL, and like just walk us through this time frame into kind of like the next stage of your life, leaving professional sports behind.
Yeah, I got injured, so I played arena football for 1 season. I got picked up and then I got injured pretty quickly. I broke my wrist, so there's a scar right here. And it was a journey, man. It was a really depressing journey where I was sleeping on my sister's couch for that next year and a half, and I was just trying to figure out what am I going to do for the rest of my life. I'm 24. What do I do for the next 70, whatever plus years I'm alive for, hopefully. And I had no clue what talents I had, what skills I had, who would hire me at a job, what people would pay me for as an entrepreneur. I had no clue. I never made more than $250 a week. Truck driving and playing arena football, I made $250 a week. So I never made more than that in my life. And I never had a real job. When I was in high school, I cut greens on a golf course in the summer. And that was pretty much my only job. So I did some like odd jobs here and there, like moving, and I was like a bouncer for a while, but
Never like a 9 to 5.
never had a real job except for truck driving.
Which is definitely a real job.
Exactly. So for me, I just had no clue what was next. I was like, I'm screwed. And I didn't have a college degree yet, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to school and finish up. That's why it took like 7 years, because I went to go play football, and then I came back. And I just had no clue, man. I was lost. I was really lost. And I don't know if anyone's ever felt like they're in transition and they felt lost. They're like, what's next? I have no clue. I have no talents. I have no skills. But that was definitely me for a few years. And eventually, the key for me was like, how can I make my life a sport? How can I use what I do know, which is working with a team, which is like finding a coach who can challenge me in a positive way and give me guidance on how to become better. That's really all I knew. And I knew I could work really, really hard because that's what I did my whole life. So I said, I need to find some mentors that can challenge me and that can give me
like
some
new coaches,
yeah,
right?
just new coaches in my business or entrepreneurship or just how to live a good life. I just wanted to find people I can model their life from. People that have great relationships, great families, but also great businesses. And I just started reaching out to people locally. I used LinkedIn early on and would reach out to people there. And I just said, give me a challenge. Tell me what to do. Give me something that I can hold on to and just start applying my hard work to learning and growing and see if I like it or not. And that's early on, I just was like, how can I develop new tools and new skills that I can whip out at any time in my tool belt? So I was like learning guitar, I was salsa dancing, I was public speaking training, I was doing everything. I was learning how to write blogs, I was using social media. I was just like, what tools can I learn? I don't know how I'm gonna apply them or how they're gonna make me money, but I was like, I want to be an expert at a bunch of different things so I can access and have something to talk about, because I didn't have anything to talk about besides football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Well, and it's like as a football player, it's like when you're a 5-tool athlete, and then you go into business and you're like, well, what are my tools, right? Mm-hmm. So when you start reaching out to people, looking for mentors or guidance, did you have a lot of people that just didn't respond, or was there? I mean, did you have to overcome the fact that like some people just didn't care?
Interestingly enough, a lot of people responded. And I don't know if that was the way I was reaching out to them. I think I approached reaching out to them with, I was pretty smart in the way I reached out, where I would find people that we knew in common. I would find mutual interests that we have in common. And I wouldn't ask them for advice. I would ask them to share with me about their success. And I think people are much more willing to talk about their success on the phone for 10 minutes than to give you advice. and it doesn't feel like work when you're talking about your results and your success.
About yourself. Too,
When everyone asks someone, can you give me 5 minutes, can I take you out to coffee, can you just give me some advice about what I should do? It just doesn't feel as good to someone. So I think my approach, for some reason I did the approach in a way that worked.
Well, and without even knowing it, you were learning marketing. You were teaching yourself how to market, right?
Exactly.
You were probably calling people, you get a certain level of receptiveness, you call 5 more people and you adjust.
Right.
So you're already building your tools out, but independently, right?
Yeah, I would learn, if someone didn't respond, I was like, okay, why didn't they respond? And why did this person respond? And just started to learn by trial,
So at this point, you're sick of living on your sister's couch, right? You have to make some money.
I mean, for a year and a half, I was on her couch. And I remember she said, one day I feel really bad. She was like the sweetest woman. So nice and loving and like, not a mean bone in her body. And one day she's like, so, do you think it's time that you can like help pay for rent or something? Or maybe you should get a job? And I was like, oh man, I gotta do something now finally. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a job. And I went on Craigslist. You guys remember Craigslist? Back in the day. I went on Craigslist and I looked up sports marketing jobs in Columbus, Ohio. And I found a bunch of them actually. And I found this one sports marketing company, I think it paid like 35 grand a year. And I was like, man, that's a lot of money. And I was like, all the things they talked about, I was like, I could do a really good job at this. I was like, I think I could do a good job. And so I fill out the form or whatever, or send my resume or whatever I had at the time. And I get an interview. And so I'm like, I think I own one sports coat and one nice shirt. And I'm getting ready to go to this interview. And I remember I was just like, I couldn't leave the door. I couldn't leave my sister's house. I was like, I think I'm gonna get this job if I go. Like I'm gonna enroll them in my whatever, my experience and just my passion that they're gonna give me the job. I just had this feeling. So I didn't go. I didn't go because I didn't want to get the job because then I was stuck.
You had to everything would change.
Then
right?
I was stuck. Then I was like, okay, then I have to do this thing.
Yeah, you have to work now. Yeah.
Right. And I was just, but then I just saw a future that I didn't want. I was like, I'm gonna do this job and I'm gonna crush it because I'm competitive. So I'm gonna want to be the best in this job, and I'm gonna want to beat everyone out, and I'm gonna want to get to the top, right, of the company. And I was like, that's not what I want. And so I said, okay, it's time to like pull my big boy pants up and like figure out how to make money then. And I think that's about the time when I did my first LinkedIn event, where I got 350 people to show up for an event that I'd never done an event before.
Where was this?
This was in St. Louis, Missouri, at a restaurant, like a bar restaurant. I called up this restaurant. I called up a bunch of places in St. Louis because I lived there for a number of years. So I had like this audience that I built up on LinkedIn. And I don't know how I came up with this, but I remember calling a bunch of restaurants in an area that I liked in the Central West End in St. Louis. And I said, I'm looking to do an event. What's the worst night of the week where no one shows up? And I think this venue was like, Tuesday, no one comes. I was like, if I bring a few hundred people, can I have the space for free? They're like, absolutely. So I was like, okay, cool. So I planned this event. Over a month, I promoted it on LinkedIn. I had no clue how many people were to show up. It was a free event. But 350 people walked through the door. And I sold 4 tables at $250 each to have like a little sponsorship table or something. So I made $1,000. And I was like, this is good money. But how can I make more? So I was like, the next event, why don't I charge $5 at the door and see if people will show up? I didn't think people would show up. More people showed up. I was like, interesting. And I sold like 5 or 6 tables, right? And I was like, okay, so I've got this audience. How can I leverage this even more? So the next event I sold for $10 at the door. And eventually I was selling for $20 at the door. And then I was like, I was doing deals as well as I was introducing people. When I would come back into these events, people were like, oh, last time 2 months ago, so-and-so we met, and I just made like 10 grand from this deal we did together. And I was like, interesting. So if I introduce you to someone else, can you give me commission, for this deal, or whatever it may be? And some things didn't want to be a commission, but I was like trying to figure out how I could put deals together, referrals, essentially affiliate marketing, which I didn't know what that was at the time. And so I was putting deals together. Then people were like, how
old are you right now?
24.
Okay.
And I'm like,
wait, you're 24 still?
No, right now I'm 32.
I know that, but I'm
24.
saying, what you were, so just timeline. When were you like? When was your sister like? Okay, when's rent time? That was like early 24.
2008. Yeah, I started living with her in August of 2007, and so it was like end of 2008 or early 2009 is when I finally got out of there.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So continue.
So I started, doing these deals, and then people were like, "Can you show me how to use LinkedIn and get all these people to show up and drive traffic to my business?" Because it was 2008, 2009 at the time, and people were struggling in their business. And can you show me how to get a job and this and that? So I would do one-on-one consulting. I was like, "Sure, I'll show you." And then I started charging for that. I started charging $50, $100, $300 for these one-on-one sessions, just helping people. And people were coming to me left and right to these one-on-one sessions, essentially LinkedIn profile makeovers. So I was making money that way. And then I built a relationship with these bars and restaurants, and they were so grateful that on a Tuesday night, they would have 300 to 500 people to show up. So I said, "Can you give me a cut of the food and bar?" Right? I was like, "You're making a lot of money on a Tuesday night where no one would show up. You're making 10, 20 grand. Can you give me a commission?" And they were like, "Yes, if you bring more people back, let's do it." And I was like, "Okay, what can we do?" And they're like, "How about if you get $5,000 through in the next few hours, we'll give you 10%. If you get 10,000, we'll give you 15%. I was like, "Perfect." So I started working that deal. Then I wrote a book about LinkedIn because people were like, I didn't want to do the one-on-one anymore. So I said,
When to scale it a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, "How to scale this?" I'll put all the information in the book through one of my mentors who helped me write it. And I started selling that at the event. So I had like 6 or 7 different streams of revenue from one event, and I just did those over and over. I did 20 events in about a year and a half around the country. And that was my first really experience of being an entrepreneur. It was like creating something from nothing, making money from thin air from an idea.
Well, and it's probably like you started doing it, and then people started calling you an entrepreneur, right? Before you called yourself
Yeah, they were
that.
like this LinkedIn guru who's throwing events around the country. And I was just like, I'm just fooling everyone. I'm still sitting on my sister's couch. I have no clue what I'm doing still, but I'm learning it all along the way.
And people were obviously happy with your services, right?
They were getting great results. Yeah, people were so excited about these events. You know, the caliber of people that were coming were all from LinkedIn, so it was quality people. And I did a great job promoting it. You know, I was just online every day. I'd send a message one by one. You know, people don't know this. Like, it takes a lot of work to get people to show up for an event. And was anyone at my launch party a few weeks ago in LA? Like, I sent a message one by one to everyone that I was connected to on Facebook who lived in LA, Santa Monica, Venice, Studio City. Like, I sent a message. If we're friends, you got a message from me on Facebook. And I was like, people aren't just going to show up just by me promoting this, like, and just posting it. Because everyone I emailed was like, "Oh, I never even saw this. I didn't even know it was happening." So I did that with these events on LinkedIn. I would promote one by one the people I was connected to on LinkedIn in specific cities and message them. It was just like, how many hours can I put in to make a great event? And I was just willing to do whatever it took. I had that time.
Well, and you probably saw that whatever you were putting in, you were getting a return on your investment as well. Big round of applause for the Startup Grind people leaving. Everyone. They have to catch a flight back to San Francisco. So, but yeah, it's like all the time you put into LinkedIn, you're probably seeing a return. You're seeing more people show up, and I'm guessing that was the case with your launch party too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, so fast forward, you actually got bought out of your first business. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So tell us how that happened. How that how everything changed, and what came next.
It's interesting. I moved to LA 3.5 years ago for love, and the love didn't work out in a big way. And it was like the most
of the time it doesn't.
It was the most disastrous experience, but some incredible things came from the experience. So I'm very grateful and blessed because I wouldn't have the podcast without this experience, actually. So this book wouldn't be here without this experience. So everything happens for a reason. And do I sound this bad? I'm hearing myself just sound very bad. I'm like just getting over being like super sick the last couple of days.
You sound like Tony Robbins.
Because I'm like hearing myself, and I'm like, man, my voice does not sound smooth like it does in the podcast. So I moved to LA 3.5 years ago. And I remember just like, I was talking, I wanted my business to go in one direction, my business partner, in my mind, he wanted to go in a different direction. And our level of work ethic was different, let's just say that. And for me, I was getting more and more frustrated with our lack of alignment. And so, I didn't know how to emotionally handle that. I was like, what do you do when like your business partner doesn't do what you want to do? How do you come together? So I just felt like we weren't aligned, and after about 6 months of kind of just like, probably a bunch of high school BS, like, passive aggressiveness on both sides. So it was like, I didn't know how to handle myself, and he didn't know. We were just like, screw you. I remember one time we were in Times Square in New York doing some mastermind, and I literally thought I was gonna punch him in his face. I was like so mad at him, but I didn't know how to emotionally like communicate it. And I remember we were just like arguing in the middle of Times Square, like right where the stairs are, and like everyone's right there.
Sounds very entertaining. And
I was like, I just was like, I want to punch you so bad right now because I can't believe I don't know, I was taking it very personally. And then I remember just being like, what is going on? Like, why am I this upset? Like, let's just come to an agreement. And I shifted everything. I came from a place of gratitude. I was like, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for where we've gotten to. I love you. I appreciate you. But I want us to shift. Like, I want something to happen. I don't want to be partners anymore. This isn't my vision anymore. If you want to keep doing it this way, then I'm all for it. But I want you to take it over, and I want you to buy me out. And he was like so grateful that I came from a place of love and acceptance and gratitude, as opposed to, he thought I was going to be like this aggressive, like, alpha male coming in, trying to like, muscle him or something. And I think I really shocked him that I was like so loving and appreciative. And
probably
that was
overly appreciative.
Overly. I was like so grateful, calm, and I think that was a huge lesson for me.
Probably scared the shit out of him too. He was like, is this a joke?
Well, it's just like, I saw him like just relax, like just completely relax in this conversation. And that was a huge lesson for me. It was like, being aggressive is not going to get me what I want in anything. Like, coming from a place of like, I'm right and you're wrong, it's not going to get me anything. But when I really let go of my ego and my own emotional frustration and just said, I'm so appreciative and grateful, I got everything I wanted. I was like, wow, it was a great lesson. It was a great lesson in business, but also just in life for me. So we did the deal, and I didn't get as much as I probably should have, but I was just like, you know what? My vision is somewhere else, and I'm willing to create the win-win in this, and it worked out. So.
Well, did you know what was next? I mean, you obviously
I had no clue. I spent like 6 months just kind of like living off the money that was coming in because it was a buyout.
At this point too, I'm guessing you're fairly comfortable with ambiguity, right? Because like before this, you have no idea what's going on, but everything seems to kind of work out.
It was fine because I had enough. I'd saved a lot of money, and there was money coming in from the buyout. So I was just kind of like, and I was going through this breakup at the same time. So I was just kind of like, taking it easy.
Did you go on some good vacations?
I didn't really. I was just like, I was still doing work. I don't even remember what I was doing, but I remember that I was just like trying to figure it out. I was still doing some affiliate marketing. I was just like consulting for people, but I wasn't too stressed. And then I got really clear. I was like, what is it that I want to be doing with my time? And what's like the next thing I want to do? And the podcast came to me while I was driving in traffic in LA. I was driving and I was on the phone. And I was like, this sucks. Like, driving here just...
I think, by the way, that's the only place that we come up with good ideas is in traffic, right? Because that's like most of the time is in traffic.
Yeah.
So chances are.
And I've always been like, there's got to be a better way. There's like got to be a solution to this pain that I'm experiencing right now. There's got to be a way I can get a message in front of people who are experiencing this type of pain and frustration. And I remember talking to Derek Halpern and Pat Flynn, who were doing well with their podcast at the time. I was just like, how good is this? Is it like really effective, or is it not? Is it harder than it needs to be? And they were both saying that it's like their number one traffic generator, the number one lead generator. And I was like, if these guys can do it, I could probably do it. But I remember thinking like, do I want it to be a marketing show, a business show, an entrepreneur show? And I was just like, those things aren't speaking to me. Like, I don't think I'm going to want to do that long term. And people were like, do not make it general. Do not make it about like everything. Or, too vague. And I was like, I don't know, I just have a feeling like this is going to be something special because I love it. And if I love it and I'm passionate about it, then I'm going to promote it harder than anything else. And if it's not something I'm fully passionate about, it's not something I fully love, then I'm going to get burnt out after a certain amount of time. Like, it's going to be a struggle as opposed to something I enjoy doing. And so I remember thinking like, do I call it the Lewis Howes show, the Lewis Howes podcast, or something like that? I was like, you know what? I really want it to be about like greatness. I want it to be about like inspiring myself and other people. And I remember thinking, like, I struggled so much in school, but I believe in education. So how can we create a new type of education that's not hard schoolwork? I was like, the school of greatness. So that's how it came about, just like being frustrated in traffic, yeah.
It's very catchy too.
Thank you.
So who's
And
the first
everyone was
person?
like, it's not specific enough. You gotta be like, niche it down. And I was like, I don't wanna do that. That's not the game I wanna play right now.
Well, you always could, right? You could start, and
Yeah,
if you do 25 episodes and everyone's like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what this
I could
is.
change it later. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
So who's the first interview?
The first interview was Robert Greene, who
Okay.
wrote 48 Laws of Power and Mastery. And yeah,
And so then it kind of just snowballed, right?
took off, man. I mean, within like the first 15 episodes, I think iTunes reached out to me and they were like, we love the content. Can you give it? I remember when I got the email from iTunes, I like freaked out. I was like, is this for real? Because they were like requesting a graphic from me to use on the homepage of iTunes. And I was like, holy crap. This is like, you can't like get this connection.
It was like the second NFL combine.
Yeah, this is like, it's like you can't like go to a conference to find this connection, you know? It's like they reached out to me. And it was incredible because like from that promotion, just so many people found out about the podcast. And then they probably featured me, I don't know, 8 to 10 times in the last couple of years. And it continues to grow and grow and grow. And podcasting is an incredible thing. I just had no clue the power of a podcast.
But you were such an early mover too, right?
I don't know. I mean, 2007 podcasting was when it was happening.
Yeah, but I feel like in regards to how people started listening to podcasts,
Yeah.
that was like when you really, like, you were already there. So when the app started showing up, it's like now you can listen on Stitcher, you're on SoundCloud,
Yeah.
like iTunes.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that Gary was like, Lewis moved very fast. You know how Gary talks.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
do
He
you
was a little upset that he didn't get in earlier.
Oh, totally upset. But like he respects you for that exact reason, right? And I mean, the kind of infrastructure that you had created and the way that your network had helped you open new doors and get new interviews.
Yeah.
I mean, what, you've been on Gary's show twice now, is that right?
I've only been on shows once.
And then you asked a question
Yeah,
another
a couple
time,
times,
right?
I guess. Yeah.
So, how many episodes have you done to today?
256, is that right, Christine?
No, 256 needs to go up tonight.
Okay, yeah. I sent it to you earlier. Christine edits the podcast. So give her a round of applause. for all
Christine!
that. Yeah, 256.
That's incredible.
That's a lot, man.
So how long, like what episode, roughly, were you starting to see, this vision for the book?
Oh. 4 years ago, I met with Steve Hanselman, my agent, and gave him a proposal. And he emailed me this a couple weeks ago because he was like, this is the first time we really started working on this. And I had a proposal for a book called The Gift. That was like the working title, The Gift. And I forget the subtitle. But he wanted to be more specific. And so he wanted me to do a business book. And so I was writing a book about business called The Hustle, which is actually a principle in my book. And he goes, I will not publish a book that has hustle as the title. He's like, I would not work with you if that's the title. And I was like, that's what I really want it to be though. Because that's what the essence of how I got to where I'm at. And funny enough, a buddy of mine just sold a book called Hustle to the same publisher that I have. It's coming out in 6 months.
There you go.
And I was like,
You're welcome.
exactly.
Yeah.
So 4 years ago, I had the idea for a book, and then he wanted me to do a business book, and so I started writing this as a business book. And then as the podcast took off, I wrote this whole proposal, spent a year with my agent writing this proposal, this business book proposal, about having, the entrepreneurial lifestyle, making millions, living the dream, all that type of stuff. And it was a 90-page proposal. I turned it into him. It was probably a year into, no, not a year. It's probably like 3 to 6 months into the podcast. And I turned it into him, he goes, perfect, let's do it. Like, let's start the next steps. And something felt off. I was like, I just don't know if this is it.
There was like a moment like right before you
I was
leave your
like,
sister's
I was
house
so
again.
Here's the thing. Exactly. I was
Yeah.
like, this is an agent that I have respected for years. This is like the guy who published Tim Ferriss's books. And I was like, this is the guy I want on my team. So he's like the coach. He was like the John Wooden, right? He was like the all-star coach. And he had been working for 2 years with me to develop this proposal. One that I sent him, and he's like, no, we got to shift him to a business. And we spent 9 months on that. And he was like, perfect. And he put a lot of time and energy in this proposal. And he was like, perfect, let's run with it. And I was just like, I remember calling him and feeling like so sick to my stomach. I was like, I just don't think I want to do this book. And I was terrified that he was going to get upset at me, because I didn't want to let him down. And he was like, all right, what's the book you want to do? And I was like, I think I want to write about greatness. And I was like, the message of this podcast is really resonating with people, and it's something I'm so passionate about that I believe that I will get behind promoting it way more than a business book right now. Like, yeah, I can sell a bunch of books on business, but that's not what I really care about, like, to my core right now. And he goes, all right, let's redo the proposal. And I was like, wow. And so I spent another 9 months writing a new proposal about this book. And then we sold it a year ago in October to Rodale. And then I said, listen, guys, because they were like, okay, this is going to come out in May of 2016. And I was like, this needs to come out in 2015. I was like, I don't care what it takes, how much money it takes, whatever. Like, I'm not going to do the deal unless it comes out in 2015. Because I didn't want to wait 2 years for this thing to come out. And
It's
so,
like 250 more episodes, right?
It was a lot, man.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And they were like, okay, well, if you could write the book in the next 4 months, then we can get it done. And my agent was like, that's near impossible. And I was like, don't give me a challenge, because I want to step up to it. But then I just got like the best team around me to support the writing process. You know, I had a couple writers work with me and really accelerate the process. And we were just going back and forth every day, doing edits, writing, and turned it in like, you know, last minute, but it worked out.
That's awesome. So let's see a show of hands, and be honest, we won't make fun of you. How many people have read the book? Okay. How many people are going to read the book? Okay. All right. And it's
How
available.
many people are actually going to read it now? Put your hand
Yeah,
down.
right. And it's audiobook as well, right?
It will be coming out audio, I believe, around Christmas, December 22nd, if I can finish the recording. I read the first 2 chapters so far. I was supposed to read the rest of it today and yesterday, but my voice, I just been coughing so much that I was just like, I can't do it. So I'm supposed to come back in 2 weeks after this tour finishes up and record the final couple of days.
Got it.
Hopefully we turn around by December.
So a few more questions just on the book, you know, in the future, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So get your questions ready. What was the most challenging piece of it? I feel like because you had the podcast, you had an idea for what the outline was going to be. Were there any specific guests that you had to have to publish this book?
No, I don't think specific guests. I think I would like to have had The Rock and Will Smith on, because I think they would have just been great interviews, and I'm still committed to getting them on. And it looks like I might get The Rock on in the next couple months. Like, it's very close, very close. But I think it worked out exactly the way it needed to be. I mean, everything is perfect how it is.
Well, that's great. So, so is there a specific part of the book that is your favorite, or maybe to you was the most helpful?
My favorite, the acknowledgments, because there's no way it would be possible to create who I've become in life and this book and everything without all the people who supported me.
What does the future look like, right? It seems like there's kind of a trend that you need a new challenge every 18 months or so. You know, this is going to be a hot book for a while, and then I think it will be. I was really impressed. I mean, personally, I read it in the last like 5 days. I was in Istanbul, and I was all over the world, flying back here, and I read the book, and I was like, wow, this is going to be something that, number one, I just put in my office, because it's like, you see the School of Greatness behind your computer, like what the book stands for, like the message behind it, and really like the content of the book is like a handbook that you could use for the rest of your life.
That's what I wanted to create. Yeah.
And I think you were successful in doing that.
Thank you.
I think that deserves a round of applause.